How is it going, and Happy New Year's to everyone. Of course, I'm here with my final video of 2019 here on New Year's Eve. And of course, it is a tradition on this channel that I've done for the past 10 years now. It's hard to believe that I've done this type of video for 10 years. 2009 was literally the first time I did it, and 10 years forward, I'm doing another one. And I'm going to go ahead and announce now that this will also be my final WWE The Year end video. I just feel like at this point, I'll actually explain a little bit more in a few minutes, but this will be my final one that I'm doing, so yeah, it's the last one. That's why it's a little bit different, as you guys can tell. Typically in these videos, I'm in front of the camera. This one I'm not. I'm doing a commentary for, just because honestly, I just didn't feel the urge to do an on-camera video, and it just, I don't know. I felt like it was easier for me to do a commentary one instead. That way I don't have to do all the editing and whatnot. So to get it out there quicker, and to me to actually do the video, it was just easier to do a commentary. So that's why it's commentary. And secondly, the categories, if you've not noticed down below, if you compare it to previous years, I cut probably about half of them out, because honestly, 2019 was the first year where WWE, or just wrestling in general, I should say, really hasn't been a priority in my life. You know, obviously I still love it. It's still one of my passions, but I just haven't been really paying attention to it. It's one of those things where, like, I see it, I know what goes on, but I don't really dedicate my time to it. I kind of know it's just there. Like I said, I keep up to date with it on like Twitter and everything, on YouTube. And I'll see GIFs and videos and whatnot of what's going on. I don't really sit there and watch full shows anymore. Like Raw last night was the first full Raw I've sat through in probably 3 or 4 weeks. I've actually had it on. I haven't really even turned Raw on the past few weeks. I think the last time I turned Raw on was for the go home show to TLC, and I didn't even watch the show after or pay attention to it. At least I might have it on, but I just don't pay attention to it. But SmackDown, yeah, SmackDown, since moving to Fox, I've probably only watched it 4 or 5 times. The show is just so bad on there. It's not even worth having on as background noise. I'm not going to stay home to have it on just to hear it. I just would rather not watch it and go do something with my time instead. So wrestling really hasn't been that much of a priority in terms of me giving my attention to. So I haven't really paid much attention to WWE this year. I feel like I paid attention throughout WrestleMania, and then after WrestleMania, once that wild card rule got placed in effect, I just stopped really paying attention. Like, I saw what was happening, but I just didn't care. So it's slowly starting to the point where I just was tuning out Raw, and then it just got to the point where I just stopped watching it completely and just turned it on whenever I just felt like, maybe I'll turn it on because I haven't seen it in a while, or I'm not doing anything. Let me see what's going on in Raw. I don't know, it's a weird transition. 10 years ago, I'd have been flipping out if I was even late to watching Raw, but now it's like, if I miss Raw, I don't care. So I feel like since, it's kind of transitioned a different role in my life, I can't really fulfill some of these categories that I usually assign, so I'm not even going to bother doing it. But for the categories that I do feel like I can give an opinion on, I decided to keep, so those are the ones I will be having. And yeah, just a little introduction to that. But WWE 2019, well, one more explanation real quick before I forget, because I did forget for a second. The reason why this is one video instead of 3 separate ones like I did last year is because the brand split really wasn't in effect for most of this year. I mean, after the Royal Rumble, you had like 1 or 2 people on Raw or SmackDown from the opposite brand every week, so it was like slowly transitioning into that role to what we now knew as the wild card. After WrestleMania happened, obviously Vince installed that, and then the wild card rule just became a no brand split in effect, because everyone was just showing up anywhere whenever they wanted. So I feel like since the majority of the year it was kind of a free for all in terms of who can show up and what brand. I didn't feel like it was really worthy of having a Raw dedicated video and a SmackDown dedicated video when pretty much, like I said, everyone's appearing on each show. I mean, fucking Roman Reigns is a SmackDown guy, and majority of the year he's still appearing on Raw, like more than on SmackDown. It's not like he was appearing on both every week. He had appeared on Raw for like 3 weeks in a row, and SmackDown like once. So the inconsistency, I just feel like there's no existent brand split. So that's why I did not do brand related videos, but I will be doing WWE and NXT. I'll just be giving my, whoever I choose for the category for Raw and SmackDown, and then NXT. So that's how it's going to go. But yeah, WWE in 2019 in general, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of the first year where I really stopped paying attention, so I don't know if that's just my life changing or just goes to show you how bad the product's gotten to the point where I just don't care anymore. But I mean, it had its moments. I'm not going to sit there and say it's been a straight out terrible year. Raw, I feel like it's been picking up. Raw's an inconsistent show. That's the thing about Raw. Like, I don't think Raw's bad, but I think it's very inconsistent. There'll be a lot of good, but also a lot of bad in the same show. So I feel like if Raw was able to be consistently good, I think the year would be looked at more fondly. But yeah, Raw was, like I said, to me, mainly an inconsistent show. SmackDown was alright up until, honestly, probably the brand split again in October. I feel like since the Fox move, SmackDown's been almost, I don't want to say unwatchable, but there hasn't been anything worthy of watching. Because there's usually like one or two things worth checking out if you miss a show, but honestly, I feel like with SmackDown, there's nothing even worth going back and checking out. It's been that bad. So I don't know. Raw and SmackDown, they've had their moments, but you know what? They were able to culminate into an amazing WrestleMania. Both brands did fantastic on that show, I thought. This summer was alright. But yeah, I don't know. I can't say it was bad, but I can't say it was good. It was an alright year. I'll say that. NXT was great as always. They did their big move to USA Network, obviously, and competing with AEW every Wednesday. And I gotta say, NXT was good. Since transitioning to live TV, I think it's benefited them more. I mean, I was against the idea of it because I just figured it'd be the same, which it kind of is the same show. I will admit, NXT is. I just feel like it's like almost all matches, and maybe you might get a promo or two. But for the most part, the formula is pretty much the same every week, so that really hasn't changed. But I will say NXT definitely is more sought after to watch it when it's live now than it was when it's taped, obviously, because obviously they'll tape like 3 or 4 episodes in advance, so you know what's happening for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But with it being live, at least like when they tape 3 or 4 weeks, like I'll hear a match like, oh, it's awesome, but then like the match will air for like 3 weeks, so I'm like, okay, I gotta wait 3 weeks, and by the time the 3 weeks comes, I don't care anymore. But with NXT being live now, if a match I want to see happens, I can go back and watch it, since it just happened. I don't have to wait 3 or 4 weeks. So the move going live, I was skeptical about it, but I think it's definitely worked in their favor so far. And yeah, I'm all for NXT. I think they're doing a fantastic job, and I'm definitely can't wait to see the type of stars join NXT next year, because obviously NXT is now a third brand. We've seen guys like Finn Balor go back to the brand, so it's interesting to see 2020 guys are going to sign and help them, or guys go back and help the brand or whatnot. But yeah, very excited for the future of NXT. Raw and SmackDown, I think with WrestleMania coming up, it is going to improve, at least to the point where you can be interested in what's going on. Not saying the shows will be good every week, but I definitely think they'll have storylines going on that will make you want to watch the show to see what's happening with those. So I don't know. Like I said, with WrestleMania coming up, I think they're definitely going to shape up, at least for that season. But outside of that, yeah, I don't think SmackDown is going to get canceled on Fox or anything, so I don't like it. But as of right now, I don't really think many people care for the show, but they've been doing fine. I don't think they're going to die or anything, but I think WrestleMania, hopefully that show, I think that show's what needs to shape up more than anything. They need to stop this Baron Corbin bullshit with Roman Reigns and dog food, and just focused on The Fiend and Daniel Bryan and whoever else. Shinsuke Nakamura, the Intercontinental Champion. Put him in a prominent role for once. Don't let him job out the Braun Strowman. But who knows? I have hope, but I have hope, but I don't have high hopes. Well, I'll just say that. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into these categories. Of course, the first one I have is Theme Song of the Year. And I think it's very obvious, or very blatant, to an anonymous vote, which I think most people can agree on, will be Theme Songs of the Year for both brands. Obviously, with WWE, I don't think it's any competition but The Fiend. That reminiscence of his old theme is just fantastic. It gets you It gets you pumped, and I don't know. It's one of those songs. As soon as you hear it, especially the heal, just gets you pumped and gets you excited. So, The Fiend, without a doubt, is WWE's best theme song, and of course with NXT, even though it has been released, every time we hear it, it's badass. And of course, that is for Io Shirai. Her theme song is awesome, man. It just has that that aura and just the, I don't know, it has everything. Like, it has that it factor, and I absolutely love it. And I think everyone can unanimously agree that Io Shirai had the best NXT theme song of 2019. From there, I'm gonna go to female superstar of the year. I think with WWE, it's very obvious. Becky Lynch. Pretty much the entire 2019 was revolved around her since the beginning till the end. It's pretty much been about Becky Lynch. You know, she main evented WrestleMania, winning both women's championships. She won the Women's Royal Rumble. She's main evented several pay-per-views. They really went all in with Becky Lynch this year, and it's very apparent she was the female superstar of the year. And honestly, I would say she was the overall superstar of the year too. You know, regardless of gender, between the men and the women, she was the overall superstar of the year too, I'd say. So, Becky Lynch, the man. And of course for NXT, very blatantly obvious in my eyes at least, Shayna Baszler. She just, the way she carried herself as champion almost all year. And, you know, just, I don't know, she has that presence, that aura, and every time she's in a title match, she makes it feel like a title match. Even though her matches may not be the best at times, it always feels like kind of a big deal when she's in the ring. So Shayna Baszler definitely gets female superstar of the year if you ask me. And then we go to feud of the year, which, you know, WWE had many shit ones. I mean, you can almost look at any Roman Reigns feud. I think everyone can pretty much dislike the feud he had with Shane. The McIntyre stuff, I had hopes for it, but the feud just sucked. The whole who attacked Roman Reigns and ended up being Eric Rowan, and just everyone thought it was going to, you know, lead to Bryan versus Reigns, but it just led to a Bryan face turn, and then the push of Eric Rowan, and then his shit with King Corbin. It's like, that's just Roman Reigns alone. Like, that's just some of the bad shit, but there's been several other bad feuds as well. But there's been some promising ones, and ones that, you know, even though they weren't as good as they could have been, they're still good. But my two feuds of the year, if you ask me, in WWE, I think it was out of doubt Daniel Bryan taking on Kofi Kingston going into WrestleMania 35. More so Kofi versus the Authority, I guess, because it was mainly Vince, you know, trying to get him out of that title scene, but Vince threw every obstacle course possible. And the storyline pretty much was like almost the exact repeat of Bryan versus the Authority going to WrestleMania 30. You know, Kofi was a replacement, a last-minute replacement for somebody, and somehow, by being a replacement for one match, he somehow garnered himself to a main event match at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship and winning it. Like, his story in that 2 month that 2 month period he had was just incredible. And, you know, the stuff with Bryan was fantastic. You know, no one could have put Kofi over better than Bryan did in that feud. You know, their promos, you know, especially that contract signing. I think that a lot of people don't talk about when Kofi promised to beat Bryan at WrestleMania. That was a fantastic promo, and that was probably Kofi's best promo at that time in his career, maybe still is, you know. But yeah, that was some fantastic stuff, and like I said, Bryan put him over like $1 million and really made Kofi Kingston seem like a legitimate star at WrestleMania. So yeah, that entire storytelling was just incredible, and I definitely think that's WWE's feud of the year. Transitioning to NXT, I'm gonna go ahead and say Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole. The thing with NXT is, you know, since the Ciampa Gargano feud, there really hasn't been that much of a deep-rooted feud. A lot of one-offs or just very short-term ones, but the one feud that went for quite a long time, and their trilogy of matches were fantastic as well. So the matches really do complement the feud. Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole, I definitely think they had the feud of the year in NXT. You know, Gargano's journey to the NXT Championship, and then Cole quickly, you know, killing his dream as NXT champion and beating him, and then them having that fantastic match at TakeOver SummerSlam weekend. I forgot what it was called because they keep changing. Oh, Toronto. That's what Toronto was. Toronto, because they're in Toronto that year, or this year. That was a fantastic, you know, 3 stages of hell match. And yeah, their trilogy of matches and just their promos they'd have in NXT TV and the build behind the story. I feel like that was the most invested feud in NXT in 2019. So that, in my opinion, gets the NXT feud of the year. From there, we go to tag team of the year. For WWE, you know what? I feel like with the tag teams, there were some great tag team matches, but it was usually when it was a multi-team match. There really hasn't been any teams shining in terms of a regular match. I don't know, because I can't really name a standard tag team match besides Daniel Bryan and Rowan taking on Heavy Machinery at Stomping Grounds. I think it was that pay-per-view where there was an actual like one-on-one team tag match that was like fantastic. Like, Not saying that there hasn't been like any great tag team. It's just it was inconsistent. It's just the booking really ruined it. Like the Revival and New Day on paper obviously would sound fantastic, yet their matches, not including the ladder match at TLC, like the matches on SmackDown or the match at Clash of Champions, like they were fine, you know, but like they're not as good as they could have been. I just feel like they really kind of held on the tag division, even though they were focusing on it, but they weren't like letting it run its potential. Like they were kind of like, okay, if you guys are gonna be the focus, you're gonna do the focus, you know, the way we want you to do it. Like they pretty much were like, all right, you get that spot, but you do exactly what we say. And I feel like that was really what happened to tag teams. So it's really hard to judge a tag team based on how good they were. So I will go based on booking, which I do factor in. I just don't go by, you know, oh, this was the best in-ring tag team, so this was the tag team of the year. You kind of got to do an even mix of the best performers as well as the best booked. And honestly, I feel like the best booked tag team in WWE was the Viking Raiders. You know, I know a majority of their matches were squash matches with unknown talent, but you know, you put these two in a team in the ring with like the Street Profits, or put them in the legit tag team, or the OC. You know, even though the OC matches haven't been the best, but like, you know, if you give the Viking Raiders a legitimate team and put them in the ring, they'll deliver, and they've proven that. You know, when they won the tag titles from Rude and Ziggler, that was a great match. And, you know, they've been booked tremendously. They've been very well protected. You know, when they've lost, they made sure it meant something. And it was by the same, you know, a consistent team. It's not like they were just jobbing everyone all of a sudden. The person that got the number the first time got it the second time, you know. So I just feel like in terms of booking, the Viking Raiders definitely were the most consistent and protected. So they definitely are my WWE Tag Team of the Year. NXT, without a doubt, the Undisputed Era. They've pretty much been the Tag Team Champions for the last 2 years. The times they've lost them, they've won them back fairly quickly. So I just feel like they've been Tag Team Champions the majority of the time. And obviously they had the best matches, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. Even though I do think Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong is a better team, but I love Roderick Strong as a singles guy. And I think, you know, Fish and O'Reilly are, you know, they're a great tag team still, just not as good as Roddy and Kyle, if you ask me. But Undisputed Era, without a doubt, in my opinion, are the tag team of the year. Show of the year. This is very easy. WrestleMania weekend for WWE. Obviously, WrestleMania 35. That show going into it, a lot of people, including myself, had a lot of doubts, thinking it was going to be a terrible show, and it surprised a lot of people. And it was, you know, a fantastic WrestleMania. I thought it was a great show. I loved it. And definitely delivered big time. And then, of course, you know, Friday, before WrestleMania 35, we had NXT TakeOver New York, which was a fantastic show as well. That was arguably, if not the best takeover of all time. Just tremendous match of a tremendous match. You know, Cole Gargano, the main event, was tremendous with Gargano winning. Walter and Pete Dunne had an amazing match. The Viking Raiders, or the War Raiders at the time, versus Ricochet and Aleister Black was amazing at the beginning of the show. Just a tremendous show. So, show of the year definitely goes to WrestleMania weekend, because that was just excellent. Going to match of the year, with WWE, there really wasn't as many great matches in terms of like that must-see match caliber, where you can say it's match of the year. There are a lot of match of the year candidates, but there wasn't a direct match of the year to me. But you know what? You got to go with the best overall match, you know, and in that, when you scale down to it, I think it comes very clear that it's Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 35. You know, the in-ring work, the emotion, the story, that's almost all you can ask for a match. And you have all those elements, and they went out there and told a tremendous story. The you know, the finish was amazing. Everyone had, you know, pretty much chills and goosebumps at the end, whether you're rooting for Kofi or not. That you couldn't deny that moment for Kofi. You couldn't deny that was a feel-good moment for him. And yeah, there were a lot of great matches, but that definitely, all the other matches didn't compare to that in terms of story and just emotion. So Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston definitely gets WWE Best Match of the Year. And for NXT, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole from NXT TakeOver 25. The TakeOver where Adam Cole wins the championship. I just felt out of the three, that was a better one. I just felt like I mean, you can argue that one and the New York one. Those are kind of like a tie, but I don't know. I feel like I enjoyed this one a little bit more, and with Adam Cole winning it, just that much more better, if you ask me. So I'd say Gargano Cole TakeOver 25 is my NXT match of the year. Superstar of the year, WWE, Kofi Kingston. I feel like just the push he had and how strong they booked him as a champion. You know, his matches weren't the best, at least on pay-per-view, but they booked him so well. He had so many clean wins. They protected him. He rarely got pinned, if ever. They did a fantastic job booking him, even though, like I said, he didn't have the best matches, and they weren't really his fault. He wasn't really given the best opponents, Dolph Ziggler, but they did a tremendous job with him as champion, and he definitely had the best year overall. I know people might argue Seth Rollins, but I don't know. I think Kofi had him. I'd say Kofi just because I think he was booked better than Seth, honestly. So, yeah, Kofi Kingston, my Superstar of the Year. And then for NXT, there's only one, and that's undisputed, baby, and that's Adam Cole. No one had a better year than Adam Cole in 2019. He solidified himself as a legit main event guy, whether it's in NXT or on the main roster. You know, he got a clean victory over Daniel Bryan on SmackDown. He main evented Raw with Seth Rollins. He solidified himself, not just in NXT, but as well in WWE, that he's a main event guy and world champion. And no one had a better year than Adam Cole in NXT, if you ask me. So Adam Cole is the NXT Superstar of 2019. And of course, the Superstar to look out for in 2020. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say on Raw, to look out for, or in WWE at least, because they might do another Superstar shakeup where he goes to SmackDown. But for now, on Raw, Ricochet. I think he's in line for a big push. I think, you know, whether it's just a mid-card championship or maybe might be contending for the championship. I think Ricochet has big things happening in the future for him on Raw or SmackDown or wherever he may be in 2020. But I do think he is the one guy I really look out for in terms of big things. And in NXT, I do think Pete Dunne will make a big impact in NXT. You know, transitioning from NXT UK to NXT, I think he'll pretty much make a name for himself, maybe even become NXT champion, but I do think he'll be one of the guys that really does help that brand in terms of having that star power. So I will say Pete Dunne is my NXT Superstar to look out for in 2020. And that is my video for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. My final video of 2019. Crazy to think that the decade is ending. Just a decade ago I started this series of videos, and here I am a decade later ending it, going into 2020. So hope you guys did the video. It's been an amazing year. It's been an amazing decade, and I'll see you guys in 2020. Thank you guys for watching the video, and Happy New Year's.